Anyway, hi and welcome. If you guys are here for this month's culinary medicine, you are in the right place. And really, it's about a case for cooking, and we're all about trying to find new, great plant-based ideas to add to our plate because we know our healthy plate is one that includes a lot of colorful foods and vegetables. I am going to just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you are joining in, what we'd ask you to do is please make sure that you are muted. And if you can, make sure that your video is not on either. So if you need any support, I will always help you. If you're new to this, just come along for the ride. We do have a chat box. Please chat in there and we will try to answer as many questions as we can during this. This is an hour long, I want to say class, but really what it is we want to have some time. And Chef Alyssa every month gives us a recipe. And I hope you guys all got it in your email to be able to try and give you some new flavor combinations. So with that, like I said, I want to introduce myself. I'm Allison. I am the health education coordinator for Kaiser Permanente on the island of Hawaii. And I'm really happy to be here. So hi, nice to see you. And the star of our show is Chef Alyssa. I should say, you're like, who's Heather Charles? Heather Charles is also, she's the health education coordinator on the island of Maui. And tonight she's not here, but she also is one of the facilitators. So I don't want to forget Heather. But Alyssa, I would love it if you wouldn't mind to just give us a little information about, why you're here, why you enjoy doing this cooking.
Oh, okay. Well, thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, what's my background?
Yes.
Boy, a while back, I had some food allergies, and so I went to see a naturopath. I went to see a regular primary care physician, and I was advised to change my diet. So I changed my diet. Things shifted. I got better, and I just kind of wanted to pay it forward. So I started working with the naturopath, and under her guidance, I would help patients who had issues, kind of change their diet. And then I started cooking with the patients, the clients, and then they started just wanting me to cook for them instead of cooking themselves. So it was just, the thought is to empower people, and I started then doing the cooking. And so I kind of do a combination of both now. I've been cooking on and off for over 20 years for various households, people that have health issues or just want to eat more of a plant-based diet, just get more vegetables and plant proteins in their diet. So I still do that, and then I do a little teaching too on the side. So that's pretty much what takes up my days.
Well, we love that, and we're so happy we're here. And yes, thank you. We're lucky enough Vivian Aronowitz is joining us just to come and listen and be here. She's one of our dietitians, part of our great team. She's here on the island of Hawaii as well, and she is a big plant-based advocate, teaches our Viva Veggies classes. If you get so inspired by watching this, she is one of our instructors. So Vivian, hello. Thank you for joining us tonight as well. Um, I just want to, yeah, I want to kind of talk about, some of you might be here because you are going completely vegan or you're already plant-based, you want some ideas. Some of you might be going, I just want to find a way to get more plant-based food into my diet. Where do I start? How do I do that? And so we like to have this, what you see on the screen. This was quote from Michael Pollan, who's a great food writer, and I want to tattoo this on me, I tell you. Basically, the idea is eat foods, good whole foods, not so much, good portions, and mostly plants. And if you can kind of get yourself as those are your stepping stones towards good health, you're in the right direction. So that's the idea of our class. And as I see more people coming in, it's nice to see you joining. I'm just going to have a reminder, if you guys don't mind muting as you come in, and if you can turn off your cameras as you come in, that's great. But I do want us to all practice. Please don't hesitate to chat into us if you have questions. But the idea is we don't want you to be intimidated, right? We want you to enjoy the idea of, am I looking at this beautiful, healthy plate? And are there a lot of colors looking back at me? And so sometimes we're like, well, I don't know the difference between just having a salad and is it better if it's cooked and if is it better if I have a lot of greens? There's so many questions. I am going to put a plug in for our dietitians. You have the ability to have an appointment. Isn't that right, Vivian? A telephone appointment with our dietitians. Um,
Correct.
if
Yes.
we have an amazing group of dietitians and the support and people who help with lifestyle changes. So if you're getting really active in this, we highly recommend you join one of our classes. I am going to put in the chat, just so you have it, that the phone number for our health education department. If you are so inclined, you can always call and register for a class as well. So, what I want to do is I want to kind of step in, and I'm sorry, I'm going to read this just in case you're like, oh, my glasses, I can't see this so much, but I'm going to read the slide, so don't worry. But I really want to give a little boost and talk about this amazing legume, this lentil. It's this nutritional powerhouse. It's high in protein, high in fiber, low in fat. And what I love is that on the screen here, it says 100 grams of lentils. And I think 250 grams is a cup. So 100 grams is like a serving. Is that right, Vivian? I want to make sure I'm not saying that's about a half a cup is a good serving size of lentils.
Sure. 100
Okay.
grams is about three ounces, a little over 3 ounces.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys, just I'm one of those rounders, but if you think about 100 grams is about a half a cup, right? And you think in there you have about 26 grams of protein, right? Now think about a steak that's 108 grams of steak. You get 27 ounces of protein. But the big one is in that 100 grams of lentils, you have 1.5 grams of fat compared to 18 grams of fat in our meat, our steak. So right there, it's just this great source, high protein, high fiber, low fat. And then the other one I want you to think about is if we have 18 grams of fiber, it gives us about 72% of our dietary needs. I'm so sorry that it is so blurry, our screen, um, in what we want to get for our fiber, right? And so it is amazing how much fiber you can get with just our lentils alone. So I want you not to be scared of lentils. And isn't it true that you can get a good amount of potassium with our lentil beans? It's you get more fiber in lentil beans than bananas. Is that right, Vivian? I don't want to be saying anything
Yeah.
that's incorrect here.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I think you're getting a lot. Yeah, bananas are known for potassium, but actually there are many other things that are higher. So I think the bottom line is you're just getting a tremendous amount of nutrition for not very many calories and not very much cost. That's the other big thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so the idea is you're getting all these great sources, also your vitamins, right? We get folate in there. We get all kinds of good food, gives you iron. So it's a powerhouse. It's a great one. And we're so lucky to be able to get you excited, I hope, about it. And I'm also, while we're cooking, we might go over there. I'm going to put it in the chat. There's a website that's fantastic. And not Vivian, Alyssa, you went on there as well, lentils.org. They've got
Yeah,
some great recipes, great information. You liked it too, is that right?
did. I actually finished up all those classes this afternoon. They have these different cooking classes, and it was fascinating.
Yeah, they have so much information there. So if you get so inspired, we definitely want to have you check it out. Lentils.org is another great place. But what I want to do, if you don't mind, before we get started and have you kind of jump into your cooking, Alyssa, would you just kind of go over? I know you guys all got the recipe, you got it with the link to come into class. So you have this, and hopefully, you might be cooking along with us. Or I just want to have Alyssa, if you would go over the ingredients and kind of what you're going to do for us.
Sure, no problem. So we're going to start out sauteing we're having the barbecue lentils with eggplant. We're going to be starting to saute the onions in a little bit of oil until it gets soft and translucent. And if you are on a no oil diet, you can simmer in some of the broth. That's another option. And then from there, we're going to be adding in some of the eggplant that's cut into 1-inch pieces, some chopped garlic, some Bragg's liquid aminos or shoyu, and then some dried oregano. We're going to saute that a little bit. Then we're going to add in the bay leaf, the lentils, our veggie stock or water, and bring that to a boil. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring that up, simmer that, reduce the heat, cover it, simmer it till the lentils are cooked. And it could be, I have it on the recipe for 30 minutes, but I'm going to start checking it at 20 because I actually did soak my lentils today. And then once the lentils are cooked through, we're going to drain off that excess liquid, which you can keep for further cooking, soup or whatever. We can talk a little bit more about that. And then we're going to add in all of the rest of the condiments, the barbecue sauce, the fresh tomatoes, the vinegar, cilantro, salt, and pepper. And then we're going to simmer it a little bit for the tomatoes to cook. Then we're going to adjust the flavors to taste, and then top it with some green onions before serving.
Okay, well, fantastic. Now, you guys don't get overwhelmed because the joy of this is I'm going to stop sharing my presentation here so we can get her. There we go. And you guys, by like your hands up or chat, does everyone have right in the center of your screen? You can see the setup of Alyssa's. There we go, Alyssa's setup. And it's up to you, Alyssa, if you want to keep your screen on for you and your food. It's whatever feels comfortable for you. But I'm going to just hand it over. Now, please, you guys, chat in questions, but Alyssa, we will be asking things to you during the class, but I know there's some simmering, so I'm going to just say, let's get cooking.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to use the oil today because that's the... I'm using an induction heater, so it's not my main source of cooking, so I always get a little nervous trying to turn it on. And so I got it on, and I'm going to put it on to saute. I'm going to bring it down a little bit because as I know this runs hot. Feel the pan.
We love your bird assistance in the background. I like that. You've got some.
Okay,
we do have a question while you're starting. How long did you soak the lentils for?
Well, I just started this morning because I had to go out. So I started early this morning, and then I put them in the fridge.
Yeah.
And then I drained them. So, soaking just kind of starts the sprouting process and makes them a little easier to digest.
So maybe is that what they were saying? Is that the soapy? They're saying sometimes when rinsing the lentils, the water seems soapy. What is that? Is that just part of what's coming up and out?
Soapy? I don't know if Oh, yes. I'm sorry. You're thinking about like red lentils. Yes. I'm not quite sure what that is, whether it's part of the milling process, what's coming off of the lentils. But generally, I try and rinse them till they're clear. I find that happens more with the yellow lentils and the red lentils versus the brown and green and black.
Okay, one more question. I'll let you get to that. When I rinse lentils, they start to stick together. Is that to be expected?
Yes, especially the red and yellow. They do that.
And we'll get into talking about the differences of them, so don't you guys worry.
Yeah, it could be too because they're split, because they've actually split them and there's no skin. Yeah. That kind of makes sense. Changes their texture. So should I continue on, or is that?
Yes, please keep going. And it talks about using different colored lentils. Are they interchangeable? And Vivian will write some things in there too, but go ahead and keep cooking and we'll get back to the questions.
Okay, yeah, we can talk about that too. Okay, so I'm trying to keep the heat relatively low because I am cooking with olive oil and I don't want it to get too high heat. You can also use something like canola oil or high heat sunflower or safflower oil or avocado oil with this. Okay, so I have the onions are starting to look translucent and brown. I'm going to add in my eggplant that I cut up. And then the Bragg's garlic, and oregano. Got a little bit of Bragg's and shoyu.
So just to clarify, Bragg's or shoyu, it's what your
Yeah.
preference is. Yeah.
It could be tamari too. Whatever you have in your house, it's shoyu like. If that works, you could also use coconut aminos if you're not you're trying to avoid soy. Okay, keep all those options out. All the different people that different diets. So now I have some garlic. I tend to just really watch my garlic, make sure it doesn't burn. So I added it at the end of that combination.
Perfect. I do see a hand up. Yvonne, did you have a question? Or maybe it was up from earlier.
Yeah, sorry. I'll take it down.
No, no worries. No problem. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, great. Looks good. Keep going, Chef.
All right, so I've got the eggplant, the onions, the garlic, the oregano. It's all flavored, smelling good. And then I'm going to add in my, my bay leaf lentil stock and bring to a boil. So what happened was, now since I soaked them this morning, they actually doubled in size. So that is 1 cup of lentils.
And these are the green lentils or yellow? Green lentils.
So and then my stock I made, so I'm going to talk about that too. So I have some fresh homemade fish with stock.
So you can do stock, water, whichever one you prefer.
All right. So now I'm going to increase the heat to get it to boil. I'm going to put the lid on, keep an eye on it for a sec. So what I do, because I cook a lot, is, you know, when I'm peeling onions and celery and carrots, I tend to keep all the peelings and the edges, you know, like of celery when you cut off that, you know, the leafy part at the top. I put that in a Ziploc bag and I put it in the freezer. And then I just kind of keep adding to it. So today with this recipe, I'm like, oh, I need some stock. So I pulled it out, I added the water, and I brought it to a boil. I added a bay leaf because I knew, you know, kind of like layering the flavors. I knew there's a bay leaf in our recipe. I added a bay leaf. You know, you could add in some fresh, if you have parsley, any kind of herb that's complementary, right? You could do like cilantro, the ends of the cilantro. You could do the ends of the parsley, that kind. And so you can create your own stock. A good way to kind of, you know, not have to buy stock.
It's so funny. We get so nervous about it. Like we get so caught up, and it is really easy, and we have what we need. And so sometimes that's the joy of just trying, right? So I love that you shared that it doesn't have to be something fearful. It gives a little more flavor than water. That's great.
Right. And if you know, you're busy and you don't have anything exactly, water's fine. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll just add a little bit more shoyu or Bragg's, you know, to create like, you know, an umami water.
I like that. That's great.
There's, you know, and I don't know if anybody is like a big Trader Joe's fan, but, you know, Trader Joe's has this umami powder, which is really neat. It's like a mushroom stock powder. And it's got some salt in it, but, you know, you could do a couple sprinkles of something like that. The other thing that I do is I tend to use a lot of fresh shiitake mushrooms a lot. So I'll trim off the shiitake, you know, bottom, the stem, and I'll put that in my broth bag. You know, just think about all different what would work in a broth bag. As long as you put it, you know, and you're popping it in the freezer or just going to use it within the week, you can put it in your fridge. But just things to think about. What would work, right? You know.
I wonder if they have, you know, because Trader Joe's is, you might have to have someone send it since we don't have them over here. I wonder if Whole Foods or any of the health food stores have that umami.
I think they do.
Yeah. So you might check. You just always, it's always fun when you have that extra moment to find a new spice or a new herb or something to add.
That's a nice one, especially if you like mushrooms and, it just enhances the flavor.
Oh,
Okay,
that
so
looks great already.
yeah, the water's coming to a boil. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lid on, reduce the heat. And because I soaked my lentils, I'm going to check it at 20 minutes. So between 20 and 30 minutes is, and also because this induction heater tends to kind of really cook things fast. So I'm going to just set a timer.
And I have a question while you're doing that.
Yes.
So say I came home and I just didn't think about it. And then I saw my lentils in the cupboard and I think I want to try it. If I'm going to do it and cooking them with, after I rinse them and I put them in and I haven't soaked them, um, would I add, would I put more stock or more water or would I just watch it or cook it longer? What's the difference?
So say that one more time. You didn't.
So I didn't soak my beans. I came home. I really feel like lentils. I have those green lentils sitting in up in my pantry. Could I just cook, do this whole recipe and just do I add more stock or do I just cook it longer?
Oh, yeah, you totally don't need to. Yes, you don't. Excuse me. You don't need to pre-soak. That's not part of this cooking. So you can use the same amount of liquid, put it in. Just keep an eye. Depending upon the age of your lentils, is how long. That's the other thing. It might take a little longer to cook. I think it said in one of those handouts today that if your lentils are older than a year, you can still cook them, but it might take longer for them to cook. So as they age, they don't have they have a decreasing cooking capacity. I don't know if that's the right verbiage.
Kind of like get a little tougher as we age, right?
Yeah, yeah, we do.
Takes a little more to crack through.
Yeah. So and I always just like to check things, about 10 minutes before whatever the recipe says to, is the finished cooking time, because you never know, right, how things are going to boil off or not boil off. And there's so many variables. Hopefully I answered your question.
You did. And I'm telling you, everyone might be a lot more advanced than me, but one of the reasons I love this is I'm not the one who does all the cooking at home. So sometimes I'm scared to ask or I'm scared to look like I don't know what I'm doing. So you guys feel free to chat in and write if you have a question as she's going. And then I'll add what Vivian wrote just in case you can't see the chat that our dietitian said she thinks it's best to use lentils specified in the recipe from earlier. She was saying the orange ones fall apart more quickly. So if you have a recipe that you want to be intact, that would be good for the recipe. And I know, Alyssa, too, you're going to kind of show your different beans there, but thank you, Vivian. That's great.
Yeah. So at this point in time, I set the timer in the kitchen. I'm just going to let it simmer, and we can do that. Talk about the different kind of lentils, or do you have a handout? Or
Do you want me to quickly, while that's just simmering, do you want me to just show the site so people can just see it, you guys, for a second, and then we can come on and you can talk about the lentils? Do we have time to do that?
Yes.
All right, let's do that. Now you just have to tell me since trying to share. I'm going to share my screen for a moment and let me pull it up. So this was this is the site. Can you see that, Alyssa? You're my, okay. I
Yeah.
hope all you guys, is
So
it in the center?
all
Perfect.
good. Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Vivian. So this is that lentils.org. So they've created a really beautiful site. There's all kinds of information. And Alyssa, you had mentioned you went on earlier. Is that where you got this recipe, this one? Tell
No.
us. No.
Well, that I didn't know. That was
You
the
just,
part.
oh, okay. This is the one
So
right
what
here.
is they have actually like this cooking module for people that are in the industry, right? Restaurant owners, chefs. And so I had gone halfway through just for curiosity, because they have in one of the modules they talk about lentil flour, and that was very intriguing to me. I'm like, lentil flour? I'd have chickpea flour, but I haven't used lentil flour. But I had to go through all the modules, the different ones to get there. So I spent, the last hour or so just listening to the talks and then the cooking demos, and it really is, it's creative and fun what you can do, you know.
Fantastic. Well, you guys, so I just wanted to share that quickly just to show, lentils.org. There's always a place if you want to, if you feel so inspired. It's great. And it is funny. I was on Instagram and I saw someone making like red lentil tortillas, and they showed how they did it. So there's a lot you can do. Yeah, but if you don't mind talking about some of those beans that you have, that would be great.
This, all the different ones right here.
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah.
If we have time.
Are all different kinds of lentils. So these ones right here are the green, also known as sometimes they're known as brown, sometimes they're known as green, but these are the ones we're using today. These are the ones that are like in lentil soup. Yeah, I would think most people know them as lentil soup, these kind. These, and you can get these at regular grocery stores. They're with the dried pinto beans or the black beans and the chickpeas, just lentils. These ones right here, the black ones are these tiny, they're just beautiful. They're like little tiny, they're called beluga lentils. They use something similar in black dal in the Punjabi Indian cooking. But these are beluga lentils. They're not as common. You would probably have to order them.
Is it with a B, beluga?
E, yeah, like the whale. Beluga, right?
I don't want to spell this wrong. I might have to have Vivian do it, but if I do.
I believe Beluga.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Ed. Just perfect.
Okay.
Thanks.
These are the split red lentils. In the lentil.org, they say that the green lentils and these red lentils tend to be the ones you're going to see most often in stores. As mentioned before, we have these are split lentils, the red ones. And when you cook them, they're great for like thickening sauces, for thickening soups. When you make a soup, which we've done, I think in the other class, we use the red lentils. They meld down into like a thick sauce, a thick consistency. And you can even like use a stick blender. Let me see if a stick blender to make it super creamy. If you have like a dal you're making or a red lentil soup. Yeah, these are wonderful. And the split ones, which is this one, the red and the yellow over here, split yellow mung, are, well, this one's especially fast cooking. These ones can cook in under 10 minutes. And then next to it, this is the red lentils with their skin on, which is really interesting, right? So they're kind of a different shade of brown. And so when they split them, all of that skin comes off, and then they come apart in half, and that's why they cook quicker too. So of course these guys, the brown ones have more fiber, take a little longer to cook, but they remain intact. So they don't break down as much as these ones that we're using today in the BBQ lentil recipe. But you can interchange these two in this recipe that we're using today. I actually ordered these online. Dr. Jun shared the information about, I think it's called Palosi, Palousie. It's a farm. I think it's in Canada, and it's a lentil farm. And so they sell this type of lentils. And they have a great video, The Family Farm, about how lentils are so great to grow. That was fascinating too. They don't require a lot of water. They don't require any like spraying, and their growing season is very fast. It was fascinating little video clip about growing lentils and the farming aspect to it. Okay, so these are yellow mung lentils. Sometimes you'll see them a little yellower. You can see these ones are kind of pale. They're split too. If you'll see them sometimes in the regular grocery stores, and when I mean regular, it's like, Foodland, Safeway, Times. In the Asian section, they will sometimes be yellower because they add dye. So you might want, if that's something you know you're concerned about, you can read the labels. But this I got like a down to earth out of the bulk section. And then these last ones are called French lentils, Puy, P-U-Y. And the Puy lentils, they almost look like, if you see them up close, it's going to be hard here, I think, but they are a little kind of spotted. They look like almost like an agate stone. They're very pretty. But when you cook them, they retain their shape. So these guys, these French lentils, are wonderful, like in lentil salads. And as they sit, you can cook these up, and while they're still warm, I traditionally, well, often have done like a balsamic vinegar, olive oil, garlic, mustard, kind of a dressing, and toss the lentils in with that, and then it will absorb all of those flavors. And then you can add like chopped red cabbage, and all kinds of vegetables, make it real colorful. Sun-dried tomatoes, Kalamata olives, you can really play with. And then sometimes like arugula or spinach. So that's fun. But just so you can see, there's all kinds of lentils out there in the world.
I love it while you're checking. And I think what's really nice, and I wrote that in there, is, they really are so different. Like the red lentils are, so they have a real porridge-like consistency. They're really hearty. They break down easily. I loved it because it was sort of, I remember the first time I had tried lentils was those French lentils, and they do keep their shape and they can be a little harder, right? Not harder, but a different consistency. And I didn't know if I was doing it right. And I thought, oh, I don't know. And then I tried the red ones and I got hooked. And then I went back and tried the French ones and tried it in a salad, like you said. And it really, find one, you guys. Get excited and try something different. If you were used to only one kind and you're like, oh, I want to try a yellow one, find a recipe and give it a try.
Yeah, you see that the yellow ones are often in like Indian cooking, or I think in, I'm trying to think. And then there's the mung, the yellow ones when they're the mung beans, right? So I believe in the Filipino cuisine, they use mung beans a lot. And they're like oblong and green. These are like the split mung.
And I think this kind of answers like one of your questions. We had a question earlier where someone was asking, can you use different colored lentils interchangeably? So, there's a good example of which ones would you say if you saw a recipe that you'd feel comfortable interchanging?
Right. So when you said that, it made me think. I have an Indian lentil that I've traveled to India quite often, and they'll have like a 4 lentil dal, and which is just so fun. But it would be maybe some of the black and the red and yellow and the brown. They'll do all of it and then combine them. So it's fascinating because then you get just kind of a variance of textures in it. Does that kind of help?
I'm hoping that answered the question, but I think also the question was like in this recipe, can you interchange? Not even this one, but that was the question earlier. When you have a recipe, is it interchangeable? And I think just you talking about the differences. And so there was a question, what's the difference between the lentil and the mung bean?
Okay. That's a very good question.
And I don't know if Vivian's still on. She might have the answer to that one too.
In the yellow, are we talking about the yellow one?
Yeah, it says the difference between the lentils and mung beans.
I think it's kind of a continuum. They're pulses. There's a generic term, legumes or pulses. And so they're small. And I think when Chef Alyssa said, it's a split mung bean. So in the form where it's split, it's smaller. And so some people might call that a lentil. I mean, that's as far as I know. There might be more explanations, but
Right.
I know that less people in Hawaii, fewer people are familiar with lentils because it's more you know, an Indian cuisine or Middle Eastern or, you know, some other parts of the world. So,
Right.
but they are, what I wrote before is, you know, some people just, when they're moving into plant-based eating, they just don't like the texture of beans. You know, I hear that a lot from patients, or, you know, they find they may be gassy or whatever. And I think lentils are just sort of an easier transition. I know I personally have a preference for them. And, you know, especially the red lentils really break down. So you're not kind of dealing with, you know, a little bit of that mealiness that some people don't appreciate. So,
Thank you. Yeah, these two I believe are, you know, that are interchangeable. If there's not necessarily for this recipe, but if you couldn't find red, or if you ran out of all, you know, your red and you needed more and you happen to have the yellow, I do interchange these two. The yellow I find holds their shape longer. So if you want it completely broken down, you have to cook it a little longer. But they're both very mild, very mild. And I agree with Vivian about the, you know, I find that lentils are just easier to digest, all in all. I'm always thinking about that. What's easy to digest? And it was interesting. One of the recipes that came up today, one of the topic was street food, and the chef made a. It was the lentil we used today, the green lentil. He cooked it and then he made a hummus. So instead of chickpeas, he made a hummus with the green lentils. And then he used that kind of as a layer in something, you know, either whether it was a wrap or a pita. That was interesting. So that if you cook it and then also process it, it's going to make it easier to digest too.
All right, how are things looking under that lid there?
They are just.
Look at that, cooking away. It's amazing how quickly it does cook down.
Right, and then, you know, one of the things too is you know, you want to make sure your eggplant is cooked. So it's kind of a combined thing. I mean, I really don't like uncooked eggplant. It's just, I'm not a fan of. So I want to make sure my eggplant's nice and soft. But if you overcook it, the eggplant kind of starts melding into the rest of the dish. So it is good to just kind of watch, keep them all cut around the same size, if that's something that you know is important. But yeah,
and I think that's the kind of the joy of trying things out, and there's forgiving, but that was sort of, I think for me, the first time I tried lentils, I tried those French lentils, and I felt like it took forever to cook. And so I didn't know if I was doing it right. And I didn't realize that's their texture, right? That's the way they hold their shape, you know. So.
And you know what's great about these is you can put them in you can cook them in a pressure cooker, and then it's like super fast, or the Instant Pot. So these are very, very friendly to pressure cooking.
Fantastic. All right, you guys, any questions while we're letting it simmer? Anyone, are you guys with us? Everyone getting excited about the lentils? I hope so. It looks colorful. We're getting there. This is always a hard one because it's perfect, but right at dinner. And so it gives us something to want to go and try.
Aloha, thank you. I'm a little late, but it's all exciting. Yes, thank you.
Was there anything else? I mean, I could.
No, well, I was just saying, I don't know if Vivian left. I might take advantage of Vivian. Anything you want to add before as we're simmering down our lentils?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Fantastic.
So yeah. So I just think what or is already being explained is the versatility of lentils. And right now it's raining in Waimea. Allison and I live pretty close to each other. And it's like, oh, soup would be nice tonight. But some of you who are maybe at the coast and it's hot, you don't feel like soup. So you think, well, how am I going to get my lentils in? But the salad option is really great. So, and then lentils can also, yes, you could cook your lentils and quinoa together for sure. And in fact, there's a Middle Eastern dish, which maybe not pronouncing correctly. I've heard it done different ways with, yeah, mejajara uh, is lentils and rice, but actually you can do lentils and quinoa, lentils and bulgur. Those also work really good together. But you know, people make like veggie meatballs or veggie loaf out of lentils. So there's so many different things. And as we mentioned earlier, the cost is really low compared to the animal foods for sure. So not only are you getting healthier stuff, but you're saving money, which in these days of inflation is so important.
Yeah, I love it. I do have a question for you guys. Is how long when you've cooked a lentil, maybe Alyssa, like when you've made one of these dishes, how long can you keep it? Like how long do they last in the refrigerator or how long can you keep?
That came up in the handout that I sent you. It was a week in the fridge, 3 months in the freezer, a year in dry storage. And then after, and just keep it in a, you know, of course, the dry storage, put it in an airtight container, especially in Hawaii. And then after a year, it might take a little longer to cook if you haven't used it by then.
Great, good to know. Because that's always a hard one. We all get excited and we buy these beans, and then if we cook it and you don't realize that it makes like when you open the lid there, it makes so much more than you think sometimes. And you want to make sure you how long you can have it afterward.
This is a good one to freeze. It freezes really well. I'm not a big proponent on freezing a lot of things, but this one does freeze and defrost and tastes great after, you know, the textures don't, you know, change. And you can also, if you're cooked like a batch of lentils and you haven't seasoned it or anything, and as well as beans, it's great to just have it in the freezer to use when you need it. I do that quite often, or even canned beans and lentils. If we don't use it, you know, don't use it all, I just put it in a container and pop it in the freezer and take it out in the future. That's so nice to have, you know, available.
Fantastic. I almost feel like, we're sitting here in anticipation of what's coming under the when you lift the lid, what's coming next? How is our food looking? Yeah. Should dry lentils be kept in the refrigerator or the pantry is okay?
I keep mine in the pantry. I don't have any problem. I just make sure it's in an airtight container. Hold on, that's my time. Oh, that's okay. That's 20 minutes.
Let's take a look. So, how about you as you stirring them, Vivian? Do you keep your lentils in the freezer or the refrigerator or in the pantry? Does it
Oh
depend
no,
on where you are?
I think I agree. You can keep them in it's a airtight container. I keep my stuff in bottles. But I know people that live in very humid areas sometimes just keep all their grains and beans in the refrigerator or the freezer. But, you know, like down in Pahoa or places like that, you know, but uh, hopefully, if you keep the lid on and it's well sealed, it should be okay.
Right. No, thank you. That's a really good point. Depends on where you're at. Yeah, jars are wonderful. If you can, yeah, I'm a big jar saver, so if I can, it's just really also where you live and how much space you have in your freezer and how much space you have in your fridge and how much space you have to store jars in the cupboard, and so it's also a personal dance, right? How do you make it work? So the lentils are done. So I'm going to drain off the cooking liquid with hot ice.
Yes, please don't burn yourself, chef. We want to see the end of this recipe coming through. So perfect.
Try to be mindful. And I just want to share with you, I have done this where I have not drained it. I forgot. and it works. I mean, don't feel bad if you forgot that step, to drain it out. It's just not going to be as flavorful, because you're going to have some liquid in there. You might need to bump up everything. But it's fixable. Just kind of double everything from here on out. Okay, so now we have the drained lentils that are seasoned. We're going to add in the fresh tomatoes that I've chopped. The barbecue sauce. If you're not a barbecue sauce fan, you can add tomato sauce in its place. And if you want to add, then kind of, if you're not going to go for the barbecue flavors, you could go add chili. You could really play with this here. You could add some smoked paprika if you want, cumin. Just again, go with, all the recipes are templates, and you can create them how you like. If you're not it doesn't work for you as far as a barbecue flavor, you can adjust very easily. Okay, so I've got that, the barbecue sauce, the tomatoes. I'm going to increase the heat. I've got some apple cider vinegar, some cilantro, salt, and pepper. And let's see, my cilantro is here. And some salt. This is a little more than a teaspoon. Half a teaspoon. So we'll start with about a half.
And I think that's a good, important point, especially for some of us that aren't the chefs. And like, I bake because I follow a recipe and it works. But I think with seasoning, it's so important. It's to taste. So don't dump it all in. Start and your taste along the way. Taste as you go.
Right. Because, some people don't like, I have, siblings that don't cook with salt. So if you're going to, follow a recipe, and even some recipes, it's amazing. It's like, if that's not what you normally do, yeah, don't do it. Start with half of it or a quarter of it and taste it, and then move on, because then you might make things too salty or too sweet. And who knows what the barbecue sauce is like, right? Depending upon what barbecue sauce brand you buy, right? That could be the spiciness, the sweetness. And some of them, might have a little more salt. Even the shoyu, right? The shoyu might have more salt. So it's all just kind of a taste. So, make it to taste. I'm going to simmer this for about 5 minutes until the tomatoes cook down. That's really what I'm looking for. I bought Roma tomatoes.
I was just going to ask you that. Is there a certain tomato that is better than others? Or because I know like ours are going in the garden or just going off right now. It's wonderful.
Oh, wonderful. Well, then use garden tomatoes.
Anyone you can find, or their preference, the little ones, the grape ones.
Find what looks best.
Okay.
Oh, you got a good tomato, or you could go the other end of the spectrum, right? You could use the ones that are kind of soft because they're going to be cooked. So it might be a good way to use up those tomatoes you have in the fridge that you were going to put in your salad, but they got too ripe. You could do that too. Things to think about. How do you use it?
That's right. That'll be another class. How do we do our tomatoes? We'll do a whole class from fresh to cooked, and we'll there we go. Maybe next year. We'll keep you posted.
And if you're, if you like, I have a client that, they love tomatoes in any way, shape, or form. So if you are leaning toward that, you could add some tomato sauce in here if you want this more tomatoey, right? You could add barbecue and more tomato sauce and fresh tomatoes, or you could add a little bit of tomato paste to really bump up the tomatoes.
And then this is just give you, I know there's a question I'm going to give you. We have about a 10-minute warning, Chef. till our class is done. So Vivian, maybe in the chat you could put in when your Viva Veggies too. Oh, tomorrow at 9. Can they still sign up? Might have to
Well,
call. They might have to call.
yeah, you'll have to call early. I can send a message to Michelle, but I think the best thing is for you to leave a message at the health education number. Yeah, 432-2260. And if you could leave your email, spell it out very clearly, and your phone number.
Well, maybe
So,
not.
yeah.
That's up to you. Just realize
Yeah.
everything here we are putting
No.
on. Yeah. On the phone. I thought you meant here.
Yes. No. On the phone. On the phone. So that Michelle, because there won't be a lot of time between when she gets in and to sign in. But give it a try. We do it once a month. So if you miss this one, maybe next month, you can, the end of the month. But yeah, leave a message and hopefully you'll be able to get in. That would be wonderful.
Thanks, Vivian. Wow, we got a sneak peek there, Alyssa. You got us excited. You might have to open that again.
2 comments. Keep an eye out. Again, I preface this in the beginning. This always runs hot, so it's starting to stick on the bottom because I'm trying to be mindful of time, and so 5 minutes I'm trying to cook those tomatoes. So keep an eye on your pot. It's okay that it's sticking, but you don't want it to burn on the bottom. But then it also made me think of the sticking to the bottom. Made me think of this one time I was working at this little co-op in the university area called the Kukua Market. It was years ago, and I was doing some sort of an eggplant dish. It was pretty funny that it started burning. So it kind of had at the end, I pressure cooked it. It had a smoky flavor. It stuck to the bottom, some of the bob. So I called it, smoky eggplant. And I mean, it tasted delicious. Kind of like a baba ganoush, right? Along that lines. But it made me think of also, if you like kind of that, smoked flavor. And like for me, I like to buy barbecue sauce that has a smoky maple barbecue. But you could also, if you haven't used smoked paprika before, that could be kind of fun to start experimenting with that spice. Adding it into, especially with vegetarian food, smoked paprika is a lot of fun to just add an added layer and depth to some dishes.
All right.
Yeah. So the smoke, I know that Dr. Jen always also says, sometimes smoked paprika can be very hot. So be mindful of when you buy it that you're not buying the spicy smoked paprika unless you like really hot food.
All right. How's it looking? We got a 5-minute warning.
Okay.
Yeah. Look at that. Everyone, we're getting them to the wire to make them hungry. So look at that. Yeah.
But I'm going to put some in a serving
To show us. So how do you check the doneness? Like, it's been interesting since you took the liquid off, how you were kind of telling that it was done.
Well, the tomatoes are starting to get soft. That's really what I before I drained it, I checked the doneness with just taking some of the lentils off to the side, and then I just kind of push it. I put them on here, and then I'll try and just push them with my fingers or mash them. You can mash the lentil. That means that it's soft and done. Is that what you're asking me?
Yes, I was, because that's I'm always scared. I either undercook it or I'm scared I'm going to overcook it. And so just kind of watching what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't, with this, you don't want to, so that they're going to give you gas. So I hear you. So I have, these are cooked. I'm going to add a little bit of green onions on the top, and you can then serve it with whatever you like. A nice crunchy slaw on the side, some brown rice, put it in a wrap. Yeah, greens.
That
salad.
looks so good. That is great. Thank you, Margaret. Glad you could join us. But that looks fantastic. So, in less than an hour, I mean, I know you soaked yours, but we don't have to. You have this meal, and that, I mean, looking in the pot, that's enough. How much in the recipe does that say it's for?
It says 4, but
Yeah, and that's a great, you can save it. So this is another question before we kind of end. I don't want to, I kind of like, can't want you to show it again because really my only thing on my PowerPoint is questions. I want to look at how beautiful that is. Is so do you do it like everything else when we're all done, we want to put it in the refrigerator? Really, is it really important to let it cool all the way before you put it in the refrigerator, or how's that with your foods with
cool as
beans?
much. I know from when I did I worked a little bit at KCC in the non-credit culinary, and they would if it's warm, they would, if they covered it, were putting it away before it was completely warm, they would, cover it with saran plastic wrap, and then they'd poke holes in it so that the heat could still dissipate out, um, and
Great idea.
right in the cold. So just something to think about. But yeah, I'm going to try and let this cool.
That's so beautiful. That's perfect. And I just really appreciate it. I hope you guys are feeling um, the motivation to want to give this a try. We want to have any other questions. I'm just going to pull up. You can, I know your arm must be tired from holding all the food. I'm going to have you just show it one more time before I put our PowerPoint back up. Feel free, you guys, if you have any questions you want to ask before we're done. But we did another culinary medicine class. I do want to say we're going to do this again next month. And I want to put it up. I believe it's the fourth Monday of each month. And so next one, I think that's the 26th of September. And what we're going to be doing in that class, I think we're going to be doing our stir fry and musubi, and it's kind of Asian flavored tofu is what we're going to be working on. Sorry, it's taking a little bit of time for my PowerPoint to get on there. So I want to just put that on. So September 26th, yep, stir fry and musubi, Asian inspired tofu. So it's going to be another fun class. We're really glad you came. We hope that this gave you a little bit of inspiration. Just like Vivian was talking about earlier, we do have all these great classes at Kaiser Permanente, so many great ones run by our dietitians. If you're interested, every month we have Viva Veggies, learn how to get more plant-based. We have classes on weight management, on stress. So we hope that you join us. I'm going to put that number in the chat as well as having a lifestyle coach. So maybe you want someone to help you make an action plan. You're excited, but you just can't step in and get yourself going and making the lentils. We have people on the phone that can help you kind of get your motivation, get you set and going. We really love Chef Alyssa being with us. You inspire me every time. So I appreciate everyone that's here. Lissa, I appreciate what you had to offer. Vivian, I so thank you for being here and answering questions. We're lucky to have such a great crew at Kaiser Permanente. Anything you want to? I was talking all this time on mute. Did anyone hear any of that?
Yeah, no, most of it
Okay,
did come
that's
through. It
good.
just
That's great. The
clicked at
thank
the
you.
end.
Did you get the thank yous to you two was the big one. I probably muted. I said thank you for your knowledge. Thank you, Vivian. Alyssa, is there anything you want to end our class with? Oh, you're muted now. There, yep. There we
Just
go.
enjoy cooking, having
Yeah,
fun with different kinds of lentils.
exactly. I'm going to spotlight you in the center with your food because we love to see. I love it. We're so grateful. And Vivian, anything you'd like to add before we
Oh,
sign off?
I learned some things today too. There's always more to learn. So
Yep.
it's really fun. Thank you so much.
Exactly. Thank you guys. Have a great night and happy cooking.
Bye.
All right. Bye. And I'm going to make sure. There we go.